Do you hear that? Something's coming. You can feel it in the air, on your skin. A power, an electricity, a storm building over 60 years.
Every time that I look in the mirror, all these lines on my face getting clearer. The past is gone. What it went by like dust to dawn.
The winds of change are here. A new attitude, a new era. So what is the storm? It's the thunder of 75,000 fans. It's lightning striking without warning. The earth shaking beneath your feet. It's more than a force of nature. It's a reckoning. So what is the storm? We are the storm.
Hold the fuck up, Charger fans! Let's get it! What is going on, Charger fans? Welcome everybody onto the Week 1 preview of Charger Syndicate with my good friend, my homie, even when we are divided in these kinds of games. Because you know what time it is. It is rivalry week. The first step into the change of this culture. The Harbaugh era has begun. I'm excited about this one, as should all of you. Welcome on to Charger Syndicate, everybody. If you guys haven't done so already here up and on this channel, that is specifically for everything you need to know for all of your LA Chargers news, rumors, game recaps, and so much more. I encourage you guys to like, subscribe, hit the bell button, keep you up to date on future and past videos. We've also have right now too, so a few announcements before we bring on our guest. We've got a brand new IG page. Go and follow it, Charger Syndicate, and also our X page as well on Charger Syndicate as well. That is at LAC Syndicate. Definitely show some love there on all of our social medias. We're getting bigger and better than ever. And also, I have been appointed and I have been summoned to be a part of this year's AFC Roundtable, representing our Chargers, representing the Syndicate family as a whole, to be defending and to be showcasing LA Chargers content as well for the Chargers Syndicate and for the Roundtable Sports as well for the AFC Roundtable. So joining us, we know in rivalry week, it's hard enough as it is. But one of my good friends, one of my homies, one of the best content creators I know when it comes to Raiders content, definitely check him out at Hammer's House. My boy Hammer in the building.
I feel like right now I'm about to put on the shoulder pads once again, put a helmet on, and run through a wall for AP. Like, I am in fight mode right now. You're lucky. You're lucky I'm here right now.
Hey, same to me, bro. I'm ready to go to war. They call this game the trench warfare game. So this is gonna be fun, man. The Jim Harbaugh era in the Chargers organization has officially begun. And as we know, no longer interim, now a full-time head coach for Antonio Pierce. I'm excited about this matchup, man. I mean, from all the years of just instilling this rivalry for as long as it's gone on, and all the way up into this point where the NFL is officially back, bro. I can't say it enough, man. I can't stress it enough. This season is this particular matchup in this season, man, is going to be one for the history books.
We already know that going into this matchup, it's of epic proportions just due to the fact that week 1 is starting with AFC West rivals. At the same time, new eras, new regimes for both organizations. We love what we have right now in regards to AP and Tom Telesco. We love the energy that has been brought back. AP has brought life back into the Raiders organization. That old school, historical, knock your dick in the dirt, no fucks given, take no prisoners type of attitude, that relentlessness, something which is the reason I became a Raider fan in the first place. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, Harbaugh back in the NFL. Cool story, bro. We already kind of have an idea of what he's trying to bring in regards to this offensive scheme for the Chargers organization. He took 2 guys, former Baltimore Ravens, and J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. We know he's going to want to try to run the ball. We have a completely different defensive line, a revamped, a retooled defensive line with the addition of Christian Wilkins. Of course, we got Max. We got the news earlier this afternoon that Malcolm Kuntz is out. It's okay. Next man up mentality. You got J-Rob. You got Tyree Wilson. Our linebacking room is set. Our secondary, forget about it. We're going to shut these guys down. We've seen your receiving room. Not impressed. Offensive line, Joe Alt, you're going to have a field day. You're going to be in for a field day against Crosby because Crosby's going to welcome you to the league and welcome you to the league proper, my guy.
I mean, at the end of the day, I know you're giving me at least a preview of what I should expect in the AFC roundtable, and nonetheless. But here's the thing. I've been in the black hole multiple times, and I've come out of the black hole like Thor. Coming out, lightning strikes, ready to fight, ready to go to war. Because you know what? I'm going to be bringing it up here up on the Charger Syndicate as well. But Jim Harbaugh had a lot of words to say, especially when it came to blue-collar mentality. Because this is something that this organization has not had in a long time since, God rest his soul, the late, great Marty Schottenheimer. And so it's finally good to, at the very least, feel confident about this team as a whole, but feel very confident about what but feeling confident for the way the direction of the future is going to look like for the Chargers as a whole. So, and even when I look at our opponent with the Las Vegas Raiders, yeah, my hometown, all the rest of it, again, the only thing that I could basically see out of these shades was all that silver and lac dust blowing all everywhere. That's why, thank God, y'all got at least a giant Roomba over there to clean up all that mess that you guys keep throwing around. But aside from all the jokes, this is honestly, and this is what I was trying to kind of get a point at the last time kind of doing this, is that I do feel this matchup becoming trench warfare because it's a test of each other's strengths and each other's mentalities at the end of the day. Because we know AP, with what he's bringing to the table, which I'm really excited for, because this is something that the Raiders have needed for a very long time, where they've needed attitude. They're not a systematic organization. They never have been. They've trusted with their players, their coaching staff, that as long as you've got the grit and grind mentality, anything is possible. And it's what this organization has been built off of. So when you think about it, this is not going to be one of those, like everybody that's been poking me for at least this past week and this week, and even in the past few months, do we think that this is honestly going to be a 63 burger like last time? I don't see it being that way. I honestly do see this being trench warfare. Things are going to get tested, and I honestly do believe that we're going to get an exciting game at the end of it in week 1.
I definitely think so as well. But at the same time, SoFi plays a part in this. It has been a low scoring affair between these two teams every single time they play in SoFi for whatever strange ass reason. I gave my prediction a couple nights ago. Do I think it's going to be a close game? In a sense, yes. Do I think it's going to be an incredibly competitive game? Yes. And we both have agreed to this, that it is going to be won ultimately in the trenches. Again, with this new scheme of Harbaugh taking over, Herbert's your guy's quarterback. Curious to know how, really intrigued to know how he feels like, dude, you ain't going to be passing the ball as much as you normally were before. You guys are going to be relying on that run and then hit that panic button when the run game is being stopped and then attempt to pass it. Who's going to be there? Orion Bennett, Jack, Nate Hobbs, Trayvon Merrick, Marcus Epps. Yeah.
Honestly, though, I mean, I'm ready to test that Raiders defense because we know last year, Antonio Pierce coming in as the interim coach, the defense was definitely invested for the Raiders. I mean, giving up 17 points per opponent is something that's very well impressive. And, at the same time, because I think about this, like everybody's looking for that D'Amico Ryans effect. The fact that you're getting a player type coach, a guy who has been there, who's done that, and somebody that's familiarized with the organization. Now, of course, with Antonio Pierce, loved watching him in his days with the New York Giants and what he's been able to do, especially with a Super Bowl caliber team like that on defense. But the fact that he's bringing that same similar mentality to the Raiders, as I think, is something that's very, very special for everybody in the Raiders organization and in the Raiders fan base. But my thing about the Chargers is that we've addressed what's different about this because we talked about this before when we talked about, Tom Telesco now being the new GM of the Las Vegas Raiders. And what we've dealt with in the past is that the difference with Tom Telesco and the difference with Joe Ortiz is that Telesco, in some of those ways with the Chargers, he was able to find talent when it is out there, which is very confident. But there was a part of it that when it came to the reserves and when it came to quality backups and guys that can come in and play their role and be strong in those positions was something that I think was a little bit shaky. Now, we know he's probably learned this by now since no longer being with the Chargers after getting fired along with Brandon Staley. So maybe he has learned that since being fired and now being hired with the Raiders. So hopefully he could turn this thing around with this organization because, I mean, Hammer, I'll be honest with you, dude. When was the last time ever having at least a type of GM that is capable of finding talent, is capable of putting together a squad that we know could be the essence and the change for this organization moving forward, right?
It's been a while for us. Like our front office really have not been the brightest crayons in the box. Last time around, we had Ziegler. And it really wasn't on Ziegler. It was more McDaniels. McDaniels was a guy that was a dictator. And I think it was clear as day throughout the entire organization with a lot of the shit that he did. Look, Ziegler was that one guy in the front office that wanted CJ Stroud. McDaniels said no. And here we are, set back another 3 years as a result of McDaniels and Ziegler's ridiculous decision-making in terms of large money contracts. I still don't know where we stand in regards to Chandler Jones and his money. You gave these other guys bags in Darren Waller, Hunter Renfro, Waller, Renfro, and Carr, and then you ship them out. Go and take a chance on a guy that you were familiar with in terms of Jimmy Garoppolo. How did that pan out? It was a complete shit show under that regime. And Telesco, look, he had a lot of tenure. with the LA Chargers. He had the proven experience.
Yep.
Good with it. I'm good with it. And I think with this, the collective the collective work that he's doing right now with AP and with the rest of the coaching staff, they were the ones that came together and made the conscious decisions in terms of our draft needs and the draft picks that we made. Did we get a quarterback of the future? No. But we have a guy right now in Gardner Minshew with plenty of experience. He's played for 3 other teams as a backup. That's cool. Numbers aren't bad. His touchdown to turnover ratio is not bad. And he's mobile when he needs to be mobile. I'm incredibly excited to see what Getsy's offense is going to do. I'm looking forward to this offensive line. We know JPJ is out right now. He's battling an illness. We know he's been playing catch-up for the last couple of weeks, coming off of the injuries during the offseason and throughout training camp and preseason. But think if our line holds their own, our offensive line holds their own, anything's possible.
Yeah. And, and I think about it because I let's get into at least with the injury report, because at the end of the day, we finally have a full report. We're ready to go up on Sunday. So there are some takeaways, and I was tuned in to Wasted's live stream earlier and just kind of seeing the injury report, knowing that now Malcolm Kuntz is listed as out. So kind of seeing this with the full injury report. We'll start with the Raiders here. So as of right now, the long snapper, he's basically been a full go with the abdomen. Brock Bowers was basically limited from Wednesday and Thursday, but was at a full go. So it seems to me we'll get a chance to see Brock Bowers in his first official NFL game, which I'm excited for, honestly. That I think, at the end of the day, I just can't wait to see one of the best, college prospects at his position, really kind of see how he performs at the NFL level. Tommy Eichenberg, though, was limited all in those 3 days, so he's listed as questionable. What's been the latest status with Tommy Eichenberg, before moving forward with the injury report?
It's been a little bit of everything with Eichenberg from what you can see here. So in this injury report, it shows that he was dealing with a knee injury. He had missed a preseason battling a foot injury. So I'm not sure at this point in time the severities. I have not spoken to my people inside the building, but now it's another injury. Like, we need this guy, though, and this was a guy that AP was incredibly high on. We just need him to heal, and he's going to be another one of those guys right now that's going to be in the rotation amongst the linebackers. So we need to get him healthy and ready to go as soon as possible.
Yeah, like I said, man, I think because I loved watching Eichenberg in Ohio State. I think hopefully we'll see what happens from there. But it seems to me that, like, with the linebacking position and the defensive ends, it kind of looks a little bit shaky in some areas. But I mean, with no Malcolm Kuntz, that's going to be a little bit of a difference maker from there. But still, I mean, with Max Crosby and with Christian Wilkins, that is obviously going to be the difference maker for the Raiders on the defensive side. The 3 that are out, though, Malcolm Kuntz is one of them. Jackson Powers Johnson, he's out. And same with DeCamerion Richardson. So, and then the rest of the other 3 from Robert Spillane, Tyree Wilson, and Colton Miller, they'll be a full go. So I think at the end of the day, I mean, it's going to be next man up mentality in some of these areas, or at least for those holes, mostly up on defense. But I think, honestly, when it comes to the Chargers, because ultimately the way that this roster has been set is that what Greg Roman has been known to do for years and years is he's known to basically play a spread offense type, with the fact of having 7 wide receivers to start with on the 53-man roster. He's known for basically spreading the ball over, not only just having an efficient run game, but he wants to spread the ball out to where the Chargers can initially get points. Start off, get points on the board, run the clock, and keep possession on your side to where you're testing a lot of that defensive line of the Raiders. You're testing out more of that midfield from the linebacking position, because initially I like the pieces that you do have up on the secondary with Epps and Hobbs and even with Trayvon Merrick and a couple others. But I do believe that with Justin Herbert, that he will find those holes possible, because the one quality trait that Justin Herbert does have is that he has the ability and the capability of throwing the ball in the right places for these receivers to go and get. Now, I know for a lot of people it's brand new. It's a new receiving core that we're not used to seeing, but it'll bring up a couple points that I have up on there. But for the Raiders side, everybody seems to be a full go except for Kuntz, JPJ, and with Richardson, and then a questionable Eichenberg as well, seeing as how he'll feel come Sunday against the Chargers. But on the Chargers side, with the injury report, I know I had gotten the initial report that Asante Samuel Jr. had tweaked something on his shoulder, so he was limited in practice today. But hopefully, we get news back tomorrow that it is not something serious. I do kind of see this as being a game time decision for Asante Samuel, but we do have Christian Fulton. We do have multiple others to be filling in these spots. Tarheeb Still was limited in the 2 days on Wednesday and Thursday, but was at a full practice. He's questionable. I see him as a game time decision. And Herbert, the foot seems to be 110%. He was at full practice. And then with Josh Palmer only taking the day off, full practice, he'll be ready to go. But the only person that's out is DJ Chark. So when you think about it with this wide receiving core, I mean, what is kind of the expectation that the defense really is trying to plan out, and how Antonio Pierce really looks to attack this?
The best way to even remotely explain that depth chart that is of the LA Chargers is this.
Who the fuck is that guy?
And it goes down majority of the list, because we really don't know who half of these guys are. And when it comes to Asante Samuel, now all of a sudden on Friday, he's questionable with a shoulder injury. Running scared from Tay. All that shit you guys are talking about, Pop-Tarts and this, that, and the third. And now you're questionable? Bruh. Come on, man.
I mean, hey, the thing I look at it with this, even if you tweak that shoulder, the difference of it is that what a lot of people don't realize, this is not the similar kinds of sustained injuries that we were so used to in the past. With having one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the country with Ben Herbert, these are going to be the kinds that are ones that build the stronger athlete. So, yes, we know that, injuries are something that we're kind of skeptical about at the end of the day. But if these guys come out, and this is where I'm expecting this tomorrow, but if we get positive news, and I'm hypothetically speaking this, Asante Samuel comes out and says, you know what? I tweaked it a little bit, but I'm good. I ain't missing this for the world. I think we'd be good. I think at the end of the day, he wants to fight because he knows that this is rivalry week. There's no excuses to not even show up. And at the same time, it's full go. This is blue collar mentality at the end of the day. So I think the Chargers in this regard, we know that the defense looks different. We know that some parts of this offense looks different. But I think this is a good feeling for all of us Charger fans at the end of the day, because we want to see, has Jim Harbaugh lost a step? To me personally, I think he's honestly kept up with today's NFL, because he's watching from a lot of these things from the outside looking in before he even took this job. He's seeing with the competition that's in front of him, including our freaking rival matchup, the Kansas City Chiefs last night, from what Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid is capable of doing. That's something that you and I have gone back and forth of, that this is a team we strongly hate. And we strongly want to put up the most points against that damn team. So, but at the end of the day, there's plenty of time. This is the first step in the first week. And I think, honestly, the Chargers are ready for the competition, because we've had this game burning in the back of our minds since you guys basically beating us with a hockey stick at quarterback, which apparently everybody seems to be proud of with the Raiders fan base. So I'm just okay, you guys want to be proud with beating a hockey stick? All right. I just say that when it comes to Herbert, that game would not happen. But everybody on our sideline, and you saw this too, we all gave up because we didn't want an idiot for a head coach. So y'all did us a favor. You got that idiot out of the building. And yes, we give you Tom Telesco as a GM, but you gave us something back in return. You finally gave us a capable coach that is willing to go toe-to-toe and is willing to go to war on a trench warfare, and especially in a week 1 matchup against the Raiders.
Is he really capable though? Or is he going to be stuck in his ways of the past when he was a head coach in the NFL a long time ago? Game has changed. The game has changed. It's a hell of a lot more of a pass-friendly league than it was when he was with the Niners. We're trying to rely on that run game is only going to get you so far. So, like I said, I'm very intrigued for this matchup. I would love to ruin his homecoming and his return to the NFL. I'm here for it, man.
Yeah, I'm excited for this because you know how strong the rivalry is. I would just love to be, and you know me, obviously going on vacation this up and coming week, but nothing will make me happier than to be being up on a plane, touching down in Finn's country in Miami, and just going and sipping on one of the best specialty drinks for the victory against those haters. Nothing will make me happier than that. The fact of having that burned in the back of my head and then to have to bring it back to you, no Diddy, no Vaseline, bro. I'm excited about that because we got a lot to really speak for in this game.
And when you hold that L come Sunday evening, what's that drink going to be in Miami then?
I don't know. I mean, at the end of it, hey, whether I make it a Bloody Mary because it's going to be a bloodbath at the end of the day, it's going to be something red. That whole field is going to be covered in nothing but red, bro. So, yeah, we'll see who the last man standing is going to be at the end of the day. But the funny thing of it is, and I want to break down because we've done this with, the positions. Obviously, when we look at the quarterback position, I'm curious of how Gardner Minshew is going to be when it comes to the offensive fluidity. Because the fact of moving on from an offensive coordinator that, like, the thing is that I love Devontae Adams. Don't get me wrong. But I see the writing on the wall when Devontae, he's not getting the expected throws that he's always been known for since he'd been in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. And that becomes frustrating for any star wide receiver. You know what I mean? And so when I think about this with Luke Getsy, and Getsy is a big-time dual tight end threat. He loves his dual tight ends with Bowers and even with Michael Mayer. I just am looking at this offensive fluidity, and I don't know what I'm going to get with Gardner Minshew. I mean, am I going to get something he picked off of from Shane Steichen's offense in Indianapolis? Or is this going to be something where it's going to be nothing but constant adjustment in-game situations?
I don't think so. I really don't. We see what, again, we went through the preseason. The offensive scheme was very vanilla. We're not going to show our hand. And I've been saying this from the jump. I'm intrigued to see what Getsy has up his sleeve in terms of this offense. Plenty of weapons. You got Tay, you got Jacoby Myers, you got Brock, you got Michael Mayer, you got Trey Tucker. You have in the backfield, you have Madison, you have Zeus, you have the Juice Box, you got Amir Abdullah. Like, anything is possible when it comes to Brock, the Swiss Army knife that he is. We did see this a couple times during the preseason. You had him lined up in the backfield as a fullback. You can put him there in the slot. He can do it all, and I'm here for it. And as it pertains to Devontae Adams, I'm so sick of people talking about his numbers since he's been here. Year 1, Derek Carr, 1,516 yards, 14 touchdowns. Last year, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. It really has not fallen off. It really has not fallen off. If you look at a lot of his numbers throughout his career in Green Bay, a lot of times well under 1,000 yards. And I'm talking like 800-900 yards. So everybody's got to stop with that shit.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, it just proves that, like, Devontae Adams could work with anybody, like, at the end of the day. But the only thing that I know that could be a question and concern is those those clutch moments that you know that you need to execute. I think that does become a frustrating part for anybody and for any player and for even for any team. Because if you don't end up executing up on those plays, that gets very frustrating. And then that's when the tone in the locker room becomes turmoil.
You don't have a quarterback that's afraid to get hit right now like we did in Jimmy Garoppolo. You don't have a quarterback that's just constantly playing under pressure and is just going to throw it up there. And like Tay said, dude is trying to get him fucking killed.
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to see that this time around. We're not going we didn't see that when O'Connell was starting after the firing of McDaniels and the benching of Garoppolo. Like, things are different. And I'm confident they made the right decision here. They took they have a guy in Minshew that has the experience. They made the right decision making him the starter at least the first quarter of the 2024-2025 season.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm willing to step up to that challenge, bro. And at the end of the day, this is a totally different defense. This is not even honestly the shit show defense that we had in the last few years. This is one that Jesse Minter, and even from what I've been seeing from studying film and from seeing his performances in Michigan, he's the kind that is going to instill a lot of 3-4 defense sets and all of the secondaries. And again, whether they're big time namers or they're no namers at all, don't matter. What Jesse Minter is putting together is he wants to have a defense that's capable of stuffing the run, especially when you got to keep Zeus, you got to keep Abdullah, and you even got to keep Lauby back behind that offensive on that line of scrimmage. Because that's initially what it is. You do not want these guys to gain another yard whatsoever. You want to keep them contained because the run defense has been a problem for the Chargers. I've been seeing it for three preseason games. This Chargers defense, compared to what it has been in the last 3 years, this team in preseason was averaging 10 to 11 points per opponent, and they haven't even been rushing that efficiently against this frontline defense now. So I know it's preseason, and I know that it may not mean anything, but the fact that we have a defensive coordinator to come in 3 preseason games and change a defense than what Brandon Staley has been trying to do for 3 years is something that Charger fans have been crying out for the last few years, and we finally have it. We finally have a hard-nosed defense that is capable of mopping over that opposing offense of the haters. They're capable of mopping the opponents that they should be. And you know what? If it comes down to a point where it is close, hard-nosed football and somebody gets the clutch play to win the game, I won't be mad at that. I'll take that than over a runner with no namer that's honestly getting over 150 rushing yards on us, maybe even more. And it's we're not executing. I would rather be taking hard-nosed defense than I would of something like that happening. But before we move on to it, I want to shout out to everybody up onto the chat, of course, including all of the Raider fans from the Black Hole, Raider Nation, everybody. You guys are definitely the best of the best. Appreciate all of you guys. I know you guys are trying to get onto my skin, but you know what? Hammer knows me. My skin is too thick. I'm too callous, bro. I can't really get into that feeling thought, bro. That ain't what we're about. Football when we do ads. We ain't about that. Shout out, of course, to our Chargers Syndicate chat as well. Shout out to Alan C coming in because he basically is speaking this one. Unless someone has broken a leg or arm, you better believe every Charger is going to be on the field so they can spank that freaking Raiders ass. And at the same time, he goes on to say, who are the Raiders going to use to cover Ladd? Nobody. Because ain't nobody got it better than us. Is exactly the kind of battle cry I'm excited to see for Jim Harbaugh.
Nation, just keep going in the chat, please. Please.
Share it out, like it out, share it out, guys. We appreciate all of you guys for being up on here. But here's the thing about what I will say about, Justin Herbert. Because with the quarterback talk, Herbert is smarter than a lot of people think. This is a kid from Eugene, Oregon that has a 4.0 biology major that understands how the human body works. So when he had plantar fascia, not plantar fasciitis, for those that are trying to understand the medical field, is the plantar fascia is only just, a little bit of an irritation on the actual pivoting foot, because the actual ligament on the bottom of his planting foot is very thick, but it does get aggravated. But it doesn't mean that Justin Herbert is going to roll the dice, play with fire, and then potentially tear it. So luckily with the plantar fascia, he was already out of a boot so quickly. And then when I looked at a lot of his quality throws, they've been the same. It hasn't changed. To me personally, he has become the most consistent mechanical quarterback that we have in the league. Because all of his mechanics don't change. Whether he's getting bruised or broken ribs, whether he's getting a torn labrum, whether he has a plantar fascia, that dude is like a human freaking robot. So you could bring your Crosbys, you could bring your Wilkins, you could bring your Spillane, you could bring all of that and try to hurt this man. But at the end of the day, he still makes a quality throw, no matter what. And he makes the clutch throw. Because you've seen it how many times, even with that loss, seconds left, touchdown right there. We keep it a close game. Herbert's capable of doing that.
I love how everybody in here is we're still talking 63-21, 63-21. Look,
because we're all proud of beating a hockey stick. Look, not against Herbert.
I said my piece in terms of Herbert, and I've said it time and time again. Rivers 2.0. This dude is not, and I'm so sick of the media. Like, he is so beyond overrated. It's not even funny. He's not a top 10 quarterback. Top 15, maybe. He's not a top 10 quarterback. So people really need to stop with that shit.
I don't know, man. I mean, I look at the statistics and the numbers at the end of it, and I have been saying this, and I will die on the hill with this. But when I look at the career trajectory for a guy like Justin Herbert, there's nobody that is identical in comparison and similarities than the great Peyton Manning. Because if you honestly think about it, and this is where I'm going to end up blowing your mind on this, but the first couple of years for Peyton Manning, he was Rookie of the Year. He was also somebody that did not have a strong enough coach until Tony Dungy came into the building. I mean, he was able to get the weapons when it came to Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Dallas Clark, Edgerrin James, and multiple others. But Peyton had to go through a lot of these kinds of games until there was the right man for the job. And so when Tony Dungy came in, a lot of people will tell you, the defense was not as great, but you know what? He had a lot of clutch guys on defense, from Bob Sanders, Robert Mathis, Dwight Freeney. So when I look at Justin Herbert as the most consistent mechanical quarterback, the thing about him is he has more passing touchdowns than Peyton Manning in the first start of his career, less amount of picks. But the other thing is, and I know that what Justin Herbert does not have him on is obviously the coach, obviously the wins, because everybody, and I've heard it all over, when will Justin Herbert win his? When will Justin Herbert win a playoff game? When will Justin Herbert get the job done? It ain't his fault that he's got two coordinators of coaches that have let him down miserably. I know it's only 1 year with Anthony Lynn, but then when you get an idiot like Brandon Staley, who just is constantly a control freak, a guy that cannot end up adjusting to the defense, let alone try to adjust to the offense, you had to let that shit go. So then you bring in a quality coach in Jim Harbaugh, and this is where I do believe wholeheartedly that Harbaugh is going to unlock Justin Herbert's potential. Finally, he's going to get him to a point where he will win those games that we know that has killed us, especially the close games, for years. He will help him to basically become that quarterback that not only just distributes the football to everybody, but gets them in positions to where they win it, and the defense does the rest. So that's what I'm excited for mostly. But when I look at that, I mean, that's my comparison that I think of as far as trajectory of quarterback careers to start with. It's history repeating itself.
Do you think
Light.
you think Harbaugh's the guy to get him over the hump?
I do.
Pretty much what you're saying. And I'm looking at a lot of people in my chat, and salutes everybody in the nation right now that are in here. Like, imagine Peyton with no Dungy. Yeah. Imagine Peyton without Dungy. Like, I just, you are really on hopium right now with this change of the guard for you guys having Harbaugh there. Like, he's going to revitalize. He's going to get him over the hump. Like, the one thing that I can never take away from Herbert, and I said this the other night, but it was cut off, you know, whatever. Fuck Tuesday night. His numbers have always been solid.
Yeah.
But often injured. And when it matters most, he always seems to fall flat. And I don't think one person is going to be that person that changes that form. He's going to need a lot more than that. And again, look at your receiving room. Your receiving room is just a bunch of guys right now. It was the kid you guys drafted last year. The hell did he do for the Chargers last season? You got DJ Chark in free agency. He's out. Come on.
But here's the other thing that you're also disregarding. We have Josh Palmer, and Josh Palmer has been capable of stepping up into those spots when we know that we need him to. And so I expect Palmer to be that guy to take the lead. And then at the same time, we've also got a really good high-quality wide receiver that we got in the second round in Lad McConkey, which when I broke down film, this kid's got cuts. This kid's got great separation. And he's got very good route running skills, and is somebody that we were very familiarized with before we sent him out to Chicago was Keenan Allen, because he was arguably one of the best route runners that we had in the NFL. And I feel like to come in and fill in those shoes, but not be afraid to take on that competition is something that I would expect Lad McConkey to do, because I think the kid's going to be great. I think the kid's going to really show us potentially why he was a very underrated pick in the second round. And then Quinn Johnston, I know everybody uses that same thing. He can't catch. He couldn't do shit. But you know what? If Harbaugh unlocks Quinn Johnston's potential to where he's finally utilizing his hands, he's finally utilizing the yards after catch ability that he's well known for before he ended up coming into the league at TCU, then at that point, it just proves Brandon Staley could not even do that. The offense could not put him in the right situation, because honestly, his play type is mostly when it comes from the slot, because the way that TCU used him was exactly what we were attracted to initially when it came to the draft, because he comes in, you distribute the ball, and when he has the ball in his hands, he's running over everybody. No, he is the hardest player to take down. So that's why I'm like, anybody that's going to step up to that matchup, whether it's Spillane or whether it's any of the corners from Hobbs and even with Epps or any of them, I mean, that's going to be a freaking train rolling at the end of the day. So, but if Harbaugh is able to do that, I mean, you got to give credit with Harbaugh where it's due, because the fact of even seeing him on the opposite side at Michigan, where TCU stunned Michigan at that game that got him into the championship. Like, he knows it and he's seen it. That's why I think, you know, if he does this right and gets him back into the TCU, his TCU potential, then all this stuff about Quinn Johnston in his rookie year will be wiped away. I promise you, dude.
We'll see. What's everybody in the chat? Terry said, I'm sorry, comparing Manning and Herbert is insane. Not even close. Herbert plays in an offensive friendly league. Manning played when defenses could still hit you. That is a fact. Josh Palmer is a number 2 only on most teams. Like, a lot of people, a lot of people just take it.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong with Josh Palmer being a number 2 anywhere else that he's at. I mean, Not wrong for that. I mean, that was the part of when he got drafted out of Tennessee. He was initially supposed to be Mike Williams' replacement because of the length and not to mention just his catching ability. Because I mean, watching that up in Tennessee, it was amazing. So, the run game's going to be interesting because obviously with Greg Roman and with Jim Harbaugh, they love to play hard nosed to where you put your head down and you bull rush that D line. So Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, and then also seeing Kaimani Vidal elevated up into that third running back room. This is going to be one that's going to be an interesting test because it's new for everybody. And of course, on the other side for the Raiders on the D line, signing Christian Wilkins as potentially being that big time run stopper, and then adding that as a perfect duo for a guy like Max Crosby. I mean, that's going to be a heck of a challenge. I mean, with how Greg Roman in the past has always utilized a lot of running backs and has always tried to fight through in the trench warfare. I mean, how do you think this Raiders D line is honestly going to take on that kind of challenge?
They'll definitely be able to handle their business the right way. Finally, Max has somebody beside him that is a huge problem when it comes to interior offensive linemen. So I'm here for it. I'm excited for it. Me and Graf had talked about this earlier in regards to Kuntz being out. You might even see Max on the opposite side of his normal edge position. You might see him, and we saw it during the preseason as well, where he was on that side. But we will see how this plays out come Sunday. I think that the addition of him definitely bolsters up the defensive line tremendously. And I think that, and I've said this from the time we got him, he was a guy on my radar. It was him, it was Chris Jones, but ultimately we kind of knew Chris Jones was going to end up going back to Kansas City. But it was between Christian Wilkins and Justin Matabuki, and we got Christian Wilkins. I'm happy with it. I'm excited to see what he's going to be doing for us in silver and black.
Yeah, it like I said, it's going to be an exciting game at the end of it. I know you got to roll out and everything. What is your final thoughts and your prediction up onto this game? Because I think a lot of us, especially in Charger Syndicate and in Bolt Nation, they want to know exactly how you kind of see this. Because I know you're bringing in a lot of that haters stuff. So how do you see this going?
Pump the brakes. There's only one nation, and we're all in the chat, and we're right here. And you see the little top overlay, Raider Nation. Bolt Nation, I don't know where the fuck that came from. That needs to go down the toilet quick, fast, and hurry. A battle of the trenches. Again, for some strange reason, SoFi seems to be a place when these teams match up. It's always a low-scoring affair. I said this on Tuesday. I'm going to say it again. 24-19 Raiders.
All right. No, I like it. I know it's going to be trench warfare, but you know me, I probably would go up onto the other side, but it's going to be exciting nonetheless. All right, man. I know you got to roll. Appreciate all of you guys. If you haven't done so already, check him out for a lot of his awesome Raiders content. Check him out, Hammer's House, also on Raider Nation News Now as well, and part of the Oak Las Vegas Circle. Appreciate you for coming on by, man. Go and like, subscribe, keep up to date with everything Raiders news and everything that you need to. Appreciate you for coming on by, man, and chopping it up as usual. But go Bolts. We're definitely going to be bolting it up at home against those haters.
You say so. Nation, we'll see you guys Sunday morning, our weekly start sit-em, and then we should be on, I want to say 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific time, as we get you guys right and ready, live play-by-play. Me and Graf, you know what it is. Chargers, Raiders from SoFi. Shields up, y'all. How do I end mine normally? Continue to stay safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. COVID or not, you should always remember to wash your hands and your asses. And of course, y'all, win, lose, or tie, Raider Nation till I die. I will see you guys Sunday. Jake, we will be talking later, bro.
Indeed, man.
Later.
All right. Well, there you go. I truthfully believe this is going to be a hell of a matchup through and through. But I'm in the same boat where I do believe that this game is going to be trench warfare nonetheless. But to kind of get him back with at least with our Chargers chat, everybody as well, smash the like, smash the share. Let them all know that we all exist here in Charger Syndicate, because a lot of people, they've been poking me all week and they all think that we don't exist at all. So let them know. Let them know. And yeah, I did say Bolt Nation, because at the end of the day, we're bolting up. We're showing off our high voltage because it is going to be dangerous when we're up at home. So, but like I said about with the comparison, Raider dude is unrealistic trench game. I mean, hey, like I said, trench warfare at the end of it, 24-13 Chargers. I like it, man. Oh, yeah. And this is the thing. They're going to get a taste of what our new look defense looks like. And the fact that we also get a former Raider in Denzel Perryman, who originally started as a Charger. So I know he circled that game up. Khalil Mack, former Raider. He's going to love giving Mac attacks to somebody like Gardner Minshew. So expect it. But, the thought of process about it when I ended up talking about with, Justin Herbert and with, Peyton Manning's initial starting career is when you think about it, and I have exactly the statistics to kind of go alongside with the argument. So this was the thing. So from the age 22 and 25 season, I'll read it off for you guys, but it will start with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was 32 and 32, had 16,418 yards, had a completion percentage of 61%, 111 passing touchdowns, and had an 85.1 quarterback rating. So we know that the eras was different. But here's the thing. Manning was arguably one of the best quarterback prospects in 1998 out of Tennessee, and he had a great throwing arm. The only problem of it was, and even at the time with the Colts, with their first coach, is that they could not move a lot of that needle up on that offense. Everything had to be done by Peyton Manning. And so with him to distribute the football and for him to at the very least get the Colts in better field position, it was hard. And yeah, with defenses was hard-nosed at that time. And so it was very difficult for Peyton Manning to be that efficient. Now with Justin Herbert, here's the thing that's interesting. So going into the same thing, the 22-25 age seasons, is he's 30 and 32 with 17,223 passing yards, a completion percentage of 66.6, 114 passing touchdowns, and a 95.7 quarterback rating. So the rating only went up by like 10%. He has 3 more passing touchdowns, but also his completion percentage only went up 5%. But the only difference is that there's not enough wins. And it sucks because Herbert's guilty by association because of his coaching staff. But that's what made the argument about that of those years from age 23 to 25 that I had to make that argument. Because as I've said, we're seeing a much more offensive efficient, a much more refined version, and somebody that battles through the trenches better than he does is like a Peyton Manning type. Because remember one thing too, is that Peyton didn't even get into that point where he started to end up winning the big games until a little bit in the mid of his career. And not to mention too, getting into the Super Bowl and finally winning it in 2006 with Tony Dungy. That's why I'm like, everything had to come together into fruition in order for that to work. And Peyton Manning, Hall of Famer, like his football IQ is the best. And so that's why even with no defense. That's why the numbers were so damn good, because it felt like Justin Herbert had to carry the team all by himself. Now, when you give him a play action type of scheme, you give him an experienced head coach, you give him somebody that obviously can work on the offensive side of the ball, but yet have somebody that they hired on as a trustworthy defensive coordinator, is one that the possibilities are endless. So when people want to constantly say that Herbert hasn't done anything, that is where all of that is going to be wiped away. If Harbaugh unlocks this potential, that's the part I'm excited about. Telesco shortened Luck's carrier. No O-line, same thing now in Vegas. Exactly. The only one, and this is what's funny, is that outside of Colton Miller, who the hell am I going to trust on that offensive line for the Raiders? The Chargers are going to honestly feast on that offensive line. I'm serious. Because with Bosa, with Khalil Mack, with also having Thule in his second year, and then having Bud Dupree up on there as another extra specialty there, but then also you get Poona Ford, you get Morgan Fox, you get multiple guys, even Tier Tart on this defensive line. Good luck. Good luck even trying to distribute that football out. But the thing that I think that the Raiders are going to be expecting is that when we saw how shut down this defense was in 3 preseason games, that defense is willing to compete with anybody. So I am really going to be excited about that. So I'm going to go by with positions. And this is reasonable because this is also a testament of how reasonable of a content guy that I am when it comes to this. So when we look at quarterback matchups, Justin Herbert all the way. I mean, there's no better quarterback talent there, especially when you're looking at somebody like Gardner Minshew. He's blown him out the water. Running backs is going to be questionable, but in a sense, because of what we've seen with Zamir White, I would honestly give this to the Raiders. And the reason of this is because this will be the first time that we're even seeing Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. So it's a curiosity for all of us. But you know what? I'm excited about how that's going to look. And I hope Greg Roman, because with the familiarity with Gus Edwards and with J.K. Dobbins, that he gets them in the best position to where they're not so injury prone. But the other thing is that we also have a very solid offensive line. Like, we've solidified our offensive line. We have plenty of guys that can step in. And not to mention, we have a D lineman that is literally playing fullback and is looking to take a lot of haters' souls. Scott Madlock, that dude's a beast. So to finally have at least somebody that could play at least 2 positions from fullback and D line, Scott Madlock is going to look like a friggin' beast, man. And something, too, that we have not addressed in a long time with our fullback. Because, man, I loved seeing the times when I watched Lorenzo Neal. Like, we haven't had a type of running of a fullback like that. But to have a D lineman as a fullback at 300 pounds, busting your ass, like right into that D line, good luck and try me is the kind of mentality. So you better expect Scott Madlock to be taking souls. I'm excited about that. Wide receiving core, it's clear I'm giving it to the Raiders because with Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, they've got some very good weapons. The question, of course, is that even when they look at how our offensive weaponry looks like a lot of no-namers, like, that's fine. We can have a lot of these no-namers, but here's the thing. You'll know their names the second Justin Herbert distributes the football to them. Like, that's the thing. So Herbert is capable of working with literally every weapon that's in front of him. We've seen this with Tyron Johnson. We've seen this with Jalen Guyton. We've seen this with DeAndre Carter. And we've seen this with Simi Fehoko, who, thank God, he got on the roster spot. So Justin Herbert is capable of making those weapons. Mark my words. You could have a Devontae Adams. You could have a Jacoby Myers. You could have a Trey Tucker. But will Gardner Minshew be efficient enough and fluent enough to even distribute to those weapons? That's the big question mark, especially with offensive line. Tight end spot, I would give it honestly to the Raiders. The reason of this is because with Michael Mayer and with Brock Bowers on this side, like Brock Bowers is arguably one of the best. He's honestly one of the best tight ends in the country coming out of college at Georgia. I love watching Brock Bowers. And the funny thing of it is that you'll see the reunion between Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. And we'll see exactly who the better receiver is. But, Hayden Hurst and with Will Dissly, I love the fact that we have a run blocker in Will Dissly, a guy that is capable of being that extra blocker. But even so, when we have Hayden Hurst, a pass-catching tight end, it's not going to mean so much, but it's important when it comes to clutch plays. When we need a first down, we need a score, we need something to, at the very least, get ourselves in field position if all of our weapons, if they don't get open. I mean, that's initially with what we look at it. But we have a lot of pass and run blocking type of tight ends, which is a good thing. But if they're looking amongst of talent and when it comes to overall stature, I would give this slight edge to the Raiders up on it. So as of right now, we have quarterback, and it's obviously 3-1. But now this is where we get into the nitty-gritty. Offensive line, Chargers, for sure. Addressing with having Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman, Trey Pipkins, Jamari Salyer, Joe Alt. That whole offensive line is so damn expendable that there are plenty of guys that could get familiarized with every single side of the offensive line that I'm excited about. Like that is like, you could not ask for a much more expendable offensive line than that. Like the Chargers have the Raiders beat by that because all you got, Colton Miller, and unfortunately you ain't got Jackson Powers Johnson. They'll look marginalized. So good luck with that D-line with Max Crosby and with Christian Wilkins with the fact of us having a solidified offensive line. Minshew's going to get toast with that kind of offensive line outside of Colton Miller. D-lineman, it's kind of tough, but I think at the end of it, I think when you look, I would go with a bit of on the D-line, it's kind of 50-50 between the Chargers and Raiders. And the only reason of it is because our D-line, and especially with our edge rushing group, we got Khalil Mack, we got Joey Bosa, we got Thule, we got Poona Ford, we've got Tier Tart, we've also got Morgan Fox as well. Now on their side, when it comes to the D-line, they got Christian Wilkins, they got Max Crosby, they got multiple others up and on that front. So that'll be interesting. But I honestly do feel like Khalil Mack's going to be feasting. And the last few times that he faced against the Raiders, he's had so many sacks. Like I remember the great performance game he had when he was first in a Charger uniform. The dude was stopping the car left and right. That car had no transmission fluid at the end of it to even get that going. So, yeah, I don't think the Raiders are going to get a single sack against this offensive line. And they are going to be worn out and tested, and they're going to be gassed. They're going to absolutely get gassed. Oh, yeah, the Chargers are honestly going to end up like owning the fourth quarter because that's the one thing that has been a struggle for the Chargers in the last few years has been because of the fourth quarters. Because the fourth quarters is the most important quarter of any football game. And that's where Jim Harbaugh knows that best. So controlling the clock on our side, keeping the possession on our side, spreading the offense, getting points up on the board, and then shutting it down and locking it down. That's the game plan. Yeah, Mac's going to get, I think Khalil Mack is honestly going to come away with 4 or 5 sacks. That's my prediction. I think because of how atrocious that offensive line looks like for the Raiders, Khalil Mack's going to be feasting. And you're going to try to control it. You're going to try to contain Khalil Mack. But then here comes the big bear. Here comes Joey Bosa with a club hand. And he's literally going to come up and he's going to stuff Minshew. Like, they're not going to have an answer for it. You can say what you want to about defense, but our defense, our new refined defense, they're going to be feasting all day on that offensive line. That is what's going to be the margin of error for the Raiders. But hopefully we'll get good news on Asante Samuel in the backfield, because I honestly do believe that I think it could be a slight tweak, in my opinion. So hopefully we could see that hopefully we could see that tomorrow. That we get positive news on Asante Samuel that he will be ready to go by Sunday. So maybe it's even just taking the rest of the day off, at least having a limited practice. But at least we hope it's not too serious. And if it does, step up. That's the way I look at it. Blue collar mentality. Something I wanted to bring up too, because there are a couple of things that we do want to end up getting to here on our live stream. And so we just heard from a couple people. We've heard from Joey Bosa. He was up earlier. So I do want to start with Jim Harbaugh, because instilling the blue collar mentality is one of those things that is going to be so important for the Chargers and with this culture build. And I will also be playing an audio as well of what Colin Cowherd had to basically say about the Chargers and with Jim Harbaugh and what week 1 will potentially look like. So here was Jim Harbaugh on the blue collar mentality.
Showing off their work shirts yesterday in the locker room. Is that an idea that came from you, or like where did those come from? Their work shirts.
Yeah, it's very something that's very near and dear to my heart, really everybody's heart. It's an obvious motivational shirt, of work. But the other thing it signifies is there's somebody in your family, somebody in my family, somebody in everybody's family that, did the tough job, did the dirty work, so to speak, made probably a job that they didn't love to do, but they did it to provide for their family and, put their kids in a position to do a job they love. And we all do a job we love. And when I wear that shirt, and I love to work, that represents that, but it also represents Joe Sapiti, who got a 6th grade education, came over from Italy when he was 4, and he had to go to work. He had to go to work at after the 6th grade and provide for his family, and worked in filling stations and self-taught mechanic. And then one day he was very proud of the fact that he was teaching car mechanics, engine mechanics, at the Cleveland School for trade school. So yeah, I get emotional about stuff like that. And Bill Harbaugh worked on the railroad, was a brakeman. He wore a shirt like that, said Bill. Joe Sapiti had one that said Joe right there, and I got one that says Jim. So it's also honoring that person in your family that and it's maybe you got to go back just one generation. Maybe it was just your parents. Maybe it was your grandparents, maybe your great grandparents. Probably not going to go too much farther back than that. But each Bill Harbaugh, Joe Sapiti, Jesse Sapiti, Marie Harbaugh. I mean, they got their kids to, in a position to go to college. That's where my mom and dad met. No greater assurance of, being successful than and education.
So I think from the T-shirt, what he was explaining about is, I think there was a shirt that I think that was posted up somewhere, and it was very meaningful. At the end of the day, for Jim Harbaugh, of course, as usual, like his normal work shirt that he has. I mean, the guy, this is what I love about mostly is that the fact that he's right. You come in and you come to work. You come into work. You have a blue collar mentality where there's no excuses. No matter how hard the stakes and no matter how difficult the challenge may be, you got to step up and you still have to show up no matter how much that maybe an opponent, like you may feel like it's a sucky feeling. I mean, because think about this. I'm sick and tired of hearing a lot of these damn Chiefs fans. I am. Like, I've been waiting to see their downfall one of these days. So that's the one thing that all of us as Charger fans are waiting for. And to have that kind of mentality to come into work, no matter what the competition will be, even if it's a good competition you feel good about, or even if one that sucks. You got to suck it up. You got to put your head down and you got to play football. Play something that you love. Because you know what? At the end of the day, even when I go to the gym, to work out and I want to be in the best shape of my life, I got to embrace the suck. I got to embrace it. So Joey Bosa, there's a couple of interviews to kind of get into, but here was Joey Bosa earlier.
Bud had to speak in front of the room, however long ago, and he's like, he's looking forward to kids coming up to him and calling him Uncle Bud, and having relationships with your teammates, and not just them but their family, their kids, and it just, that bond strengthens your motivation for playing. It's not all about you. It's not all about your family. It's, if I mess up here, I'm letting down everybody.
You can already see this kind of mentality already coming to fruition. You can already see that. So that's the part that I'm honestly excited about. But I did want to get into this. This was Jesse Minter, DC, and his thoughts upon this in the game coming up.
We want to approach it with the right mindset that it's the opener. It's a big game. There's a lot of unknowns on both sides. And so it's about playing football and playing great defense and doing the things that to me that it takes to play great defense. Some are scheme related, some aren't. We've talked about that before. So just going out there and playing like our hair's on fire, trusting each other, trusting the work that we put in together over the time we've been together. And Derwin's certainly a leader in that regard.
Yeah, and even with the time spent with Mike McDonald, and even with just the time spent with that Michigan, Jesse Minter is ready for the competition. So this is one that I wanted to play for you guys because this is what does get me excited about the season as a whole. And so Colin Cowherd went on the Herd and was talking very highly about Jim Harbaugh as him being the most consistent culture creator in American football. Because when you think about that as a culture setter, you are thinking about like the Bill Belichick's, his culture in New England. You're thinking about Andy Reid and his culture in Kansas City. Sean McVay on the other side with the Rams, what he set the culture on. And then not to mention too, when you look at also like Kyle Shanahan, some important culture guys. And even when you look at Mike Tomlin has he's got a defensive mentality that is perfect for a culture like Pittsburgh. So Here was what Colin Cowherd had to say that gets all of us fired up for week 1.
Right now, the most consistent culture creator in American football, college or pro, is Jim Harbaugh. It's not Saban, he's retired. It's not Parcells, he's gone. Belichick, nope. Urban Meyer in college, doing TV. It's Jim Harbaugh. Pre-Harbaugh, do you remember how bad Stanford was? 1-11.
Yes, I do.
Oh, they were good at the academic thing. They were horrible at football. His first year.
Yeah, John Harbaugh was another one.
Stanford.
Exactly.
They flew
His
down to
brother.
Los Angeles as a 40-point underdog and beat the Trojans, who were number 2 in the country in Los Angeles.
And that was incredible.
The San Francisco 49ers, pre-Harbaugh, had not made the playoffs in 8 years. The roster was a mess. They had no culture. Year 1 with Harbaugh, 13-3, NFC Championship, with a quarterback that was viewed as a bust, Alex Smith. Michigan was a tire fire pre-Harbaugh, 5-7, 1 first-round pick, a left tackle, Taylor Lewan. 1 first-rounder in 4 years, pre-Harbaugh. First year, 10-3. And oh, by the way, this last year, what do they have? 13, 14 guys drafted? Stanford was a disaster. Niners were a disaster. Michigan was a disaster. And now, here comes Houdini. Pre-Harbaugh, the Chargers last year had a virtual mutiny with their players. 5-12, worst locker room in the league, worst big play defense in the league with a defensive coordinator, and Jim walks into the building. By the way, a brand new building in El Segundo, California. It's gorgeous. And here's the guy that does this better than anybody currently coaching football. He is the greatest repetitive culture creator. But this time, it's not a total rebuild. Khalil Mack, Bosa off the edge. His first draft pick, Joe Alt, best tackle in the draft to go along with Rashawn Slater. Edge rushers, tackles, above average. Oh, Justin Herbert. Nothing against Alex Smith or his first quarterback at Michigan. But Justin Herbert's really good. Jim Harbaugh this week, who was a quarterback in the NFL, I think he's got a little twinkle. He's been very optimistic. He's almost been funny this entire offseason.
Yep.
Why? Because this isn't the Stanford rebuild. This isn't the Niner rebuild. This isn't the Michigan rebuild. He's got Justin Herbert. He's always reminded me, Jim Harbaugh, a little of the late Steve Jobs. Jobs wasn't the best engineer, right? There were smarter people in the building. But he understood, unlike Microsoft at the time, the artistry of it. He was selling imagery, and he knew what he wasn't. Harbaugh's not the best scheme guy in the NFL. Could be Kyle Shanahan, not the best scheme guy. But the ability to change cultures, college and pro, is a real thing, and nobody in the world is better at it. And I got into this discussion a couple of months ago, and somebody said, God, Harbaugh's really lightened up. He's like funny and likable. And I'm like, because Jim sees what he's never seen before, which is a top 5 quarterback in a rebuild. He usually had to go trade for one, find one, recruit one. Now he's got one. And that's why he's so happy. Happier than ever as he embarks on weekend 1 against the Raiders.
And there you go. Like Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh at the end of the day, like all those historical like rebuilds, and that's what's funny too. And Cowherd even mentioned it himself. This isn't a rebuild. And you're absolutely freaking right. Because that's exactly with how a lot of people are viewing with the Chargers, because we don't have weapons. We don't have weapons. Like, we have arguably a potential a great offensive line with all of the best pass and run blockers and enough depth for us to end up playing in games like this. The other thing is our pass rushing group looks scary. and there's plenty of pass rushers. We also have potentially a very good run stuffing defense. The other thing is our secondaries are going to be playing a lot better too, because with adding in Christian Fulton and Elijah Molden and Tarheeb Still, and even with Cam Hart, these guys are going to be playing some very good coverage football. Like, this is what we get excited for, because this is not a rebuild. This is more of a revamp than anything else, because this is what the Chargers have been long needing. And at the same time, this is what I've also said before, and something I kept up in what I talked about previously up on the live stream, is that the closest thing to this, of this type of build, with the weapons that he's dealt with, and with the run game, the offensive line, go back to 2019 with the Baltimore Ravens. Because this is the same similar concept that Greg Roman put together, and how efficient that offense was with Lamar Jackson. Because that was Lamar's first MVP year. And if you recall it, Lamar was able to distribute the football. Lamar was able to give it to a lot of his running backs, including Mark Ingram at the time, and even running the football when you know you needed to get a first down or you needed to get a score. Like, the run game in the play action was not like it was so efficient. That's why when people think that Greg Roman's going to take away the pass from Justin Herbert, I disagree. Having 7 wide receivers on this 53-man roster is because it's ensuring that Justin is going to throw the football more than you think. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Herbert is going to have games where he's going to be averaging 35 passes, if not a little bit more. But at the end of the day, that should be something. So this is what I like about it. And this is something that all of us Charger fans need to be amped up about. A new culture with Jim Harbaugh, a new blue-collar mentality that we need. We're no longer looking to play to get cute. We are looking to play to win games, because that's something that mainstream media and a lot of analysts have been literally trolling us on, saying that Herbert is not going to, like, Herbert doesn't win the games. Herbert doesn't do a damn thing. I disagree. Herbert is by far the most consistent mechanical quarterback that we've had in the league. So all he needed is the jump. He needed the coach to get him there. Yeah, and Greg Roman's going to burn that secondary. You know, and that's what I'm saying. He had a big smile on his face talking about the play action with Justin Herbert. He's also talking about the run game with Gus Edwards and with J.K. Dobbins, because initially with what's going to come down, I see this game, of course, too, being a trench warfare. Now, the funny thing is that people don't see this as being like as like one of those efficient offensive games yet. But it's going to come down to by the second half of football where they figure that all out. That's the way I see it. So the first half might not look pretty. It might look a little bit ugly, but that's usually week 1 all the time. Every team goes through it. They all kind of go through a little bit of where they have to dust off all of that off their shoulders, all that rust. So the Chargers are going to turn a lot of things around. Harbaugh, Greg Roman, and Jesse Minter, they're going to turn a lot of things around. And then not to mention with how great our special teams is with Ryan Ficken. Like, our special teams was great. But it should not only be our special teams that should be great, it should be great on all three of our positions. Offense, defense, and special teams. Because that's what's going to help us to compete. And it's what's funny when he mentioned about it with first years. That's what people don't realize. That's why I said that when it came to Harbaugh do not be surprised that Harbaugh would end up getting this team to win 10 games. Because even with a challenging division as the AFC West is, with the Raiders, the Broncos, and with the Chiefs, Jim Harbaugh doesn't run from competition. He bulldozes it and takes it head on. That's what he does. He is a disruptor. He did this against the USC Trojans. He did this again with Seattle. And it did this with Ohio State. And what's funny about that is that Stanford was a 1-11 program. And he took Stanford to be an 11-win team. And the closest stature to Justin Herbert with that kind of talent was Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck was arguably one of the best quarterback prospects of that time. That's how Stanford was. And not to mention, you had an efficient run game with Toby Gerhart. You had multiple players there. But that was all Jim Harbaugh's effect. And I know for Niner fans would basically say that that Jim Harbaugh did not create that. He did not end up creating with what the Niners became at that time when he got there. And I'm like, okay. My big thing of it is that he unlocked their potential. So my biggest thing about it is that Jim Harbaugh will come in and he will definitely tweak and readjust a lot of things. Because this team has the potential. Look at them. Herbert, Bosa, Mack, Slater, Alt. This is why I'm like, there is no way that this is a rebuild year. Not even close. So that's why I think at the end of this whole thing, at the end of the day, Jim Harbaugh is going to do what Jim Harbaugh does best. And I'm excited about it. And I think this game at the end of it is going to be a trench warfare game. And you could see it. You could see the difference. So that's where knowing Harbaugh and his touch, and even with what he did up in Michigan in the first year, he did not get the quarterback yet, which is funny because he worked with Shea Patterson until he ended up getting J.J. McCarthy. And once J.J. came in, J.J. didn't even end up having to pass a whole lot. But Jim was never asking J.J. McCarthy to carry the team. He was not asking him to do that. What he was asking him to do was he was asking him to just be an efficient quarterback. And this is what it was. They played very efficient on the run game with Blake Corum and with Donovan Edwards. They've had multiple other playmakers when it came to Roman Wilson and some of his clutch play scheme. And that's the one thing. And and that's exactly it. Think about it. When they had Mike Nolan, they had Mike Singletary. Team wasn't even making the playoffs at those times. Now, granted, I loved watching that defense with Mike Singletary because Singletary was a hell of a linebacker. And so to have a guy like Navarro Bowman and then having Patrick Willis, the Hall of Famer, that defense was sick. And so all it had to take was Jim Harbaugh to get the offense right, and he turned it around with Alex Smith. And and this is what's funny. You think about the guys that they had up on the offense with Joe Staley, with Frank Gore, with Vernon Davis, even at a time when they had Anquan Bolden as their wide receiver, and Michael Crabtree. Like, they managed to make a lot of things work. And that's what it was. And they ran the football efficiently. Frank Gore was a heavy-set back. He was a power back and managed to bust through a lot of defensive linemen. That's how they were able to score. So this is where I'm so excited to see exactly how Jim Harbaugh really works with this offense. And not to mention with the entirety of this whole entire team, because he is capable of doing this. And do not be surprised when it comes to first-year touches, because he has that kind of medicine to fixing up a team in the first year. It has been proven, and it works. Everybody wants to say that, well, he's been out of the NFL for quite some time. He's been out of it. Yeah, but you know what? That mentality hasn't gone away. Harbaugh will do just fine. I think at the end of it, he's already creating a culture. He's already setting the tone. And people need to take notice of that. So, the way I look at this game, and I'm giving my final thoughts here on this live stream before I got to end it, is I expect this to be a hard-nosed trench warfare game. When I looked at betting odds, it's -3. The Chargers are favored. I'm taking that. I do believe that the Chargers could win by a field goal or more. I also do believe that what the Chargers are going to do, setting the tone, is spreading the offense around, play shutdown, hard-nosed defense, especially when it comes to our rush defense, because we've seen how efficient it was in the first 3 preseason games. And then not to mention our secondaries playing up and testing and pissing off Devontae Adams, also ending up shutting down guys like Jacoby Myers. And again, that offensive line for the Raiders don't even know what's coming to them. When Khalil Mack is going to be feasting on them, Joey Bosa is going to be feasting on them. Tier Tart, Poona Ford, Morgan Fox, that whole D line is going to be playing nothing but bum rush. Gardner Minshew is not going to know what hit him. So I am fully confident in this team. I think I have more confidence than I've ever had since the late, great Marty Schottenheimer. And even at the time, the split time when we had North Turner, I had no build confidence with Mike McCoy, Anthony Lynn, only on the exception of when we had the winning record, we made it into the playoffs, won against Baltimore, and then lost to New England. There was a bit of halfway competition or halfway confidence in there. But then at the end of it, Brandon Staley, I had no confidence. This time I do. Having an experienced head coach as Jim Harbaugh is, and setting the tone is what's going to scare a lot of teams. It's what's going to put a lot of teams on notice. So everybody can go ahead and laugh it up. Everybody can go ahead and troll. I mean, think about it. You guys may not have seen it, but I had an entire Raiders chat, which is what they do. They throw you into the black hole, and they want to see if you can break. Not today. Not today, guys. I'm standing my ground. I've got my shades on because I initially can't see a damn thing with all that silver and lac dust that they keep throwing around. That's why you got to have the giant Roomba to clean all that shit up. And that's what we're going to do. Go ahead and throw your fairy dust of silver and lac dust. And by the way, our quarterback room has been great for years. It's taken this team literally 20 quarterbacks until they found a franchise one, and they're doing it again. So they don't understand and they don't realize. So that's fine. I'm in the new mentality now of let him talk. Let him talk. Let him doubt. Let him go ahead and test it. Because you know what? We got the right coach. We are building the right mentality. And we are making the Chargers better again. We are. And that's the part that I know a lot of people don't realize and what a lot of people are not prepared for. So my final prediction in this game, I'm going to go with at least a final score of 27-23. Chargers win in a late round. Because at the end of it, it's going to get tested all in the first half. But I do see the Chargers battling up against the Raiders. I do see this as a hard-nosed game, trench warfare. I do believe that we will be the ones to get the last laugh. 100%. And these Raider fans could go ahead, troll, and do all this other shit that they want. But you know what? We're ready. We're ready. Because we're ready to shock the building. We're ready to do it. Light it up, Bolt fam. Show off your high voltage in the chat as we're getting ready to close it all up. Appreciate all of you guys for being here with me tonight. Exactly, Alan. Let them flap their lips. Watch how quick we shut them up. Exactly. Because it's rivalry week, baby. This is exactly what it's about. And for news for all of you guys as well, your boy, I have been summoned. I have been selected to represent our LA Chargers strong and proud for the AFC West Roundtable. So I'll be chopping it up with all of the best creators, talking about the LA Chargers, giving my reasonable and honest opinions with our team, with our outlooks, and how we basically see the rest of the entirety of the season. So for everybody, of course, to kind of give you guys a heads up, next week, I am off on vacation. So unfortunately, I mean, I could try at least by the weekend or so. It might be close, but I'll see with how things work out with as far as for week 2 against the Carolina Panthers. But I know for a fact I'm going to be strong and ready for week 3 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, but in the meantime, this is the first step. This is the first step. And this is where it becomes. This is where greatness is built. So the first step, rivalry week, screw the Raiders, screw them haters, throw out the silver and black dust. Let's clean this up because, boy, is it a mess. But you know what they don't know? Like all of you and I know, there's a storm coming. So we better be prepared for it. Show them off. Show off your high voltage in the chat, guys. I appreciate all of you guys. If you have not done so yet and you guys have jumped on to the live stream, I encourage you guys to like, subscribe, hit the bell button, keep you up to date on future and past live streams and videos as well. I will also have more videos to come as well for the Charger Syndicate. Let them flap their lips. Let them try to talk. But at the end of the day, y'all better be walking it because we're ready for it. We've had this game circled up on the back of our minds for months. And it's time to show payback. No Diddy. But we are bringing that back, and we are giving it back with no Vaseline. So I appreciate all of you guys. Shout out to Hammer at Hammer's House. Appreciate him for coming on by and giving his expertise. My boy with the Raider Nation. Raider Nation News Now. Hammer's House. Definitely check him out. Give him a like. Give him a subscribe. We're showing off love up in here. And, of course, too, with the AFC West Roundtable, we'll be around with guys like Graphic Raider, and also with Michael Darcy of KC Sports Report, and also with Ben with Denver Sports. So definitely check it out, guys. So AFC West Roundtable on Roundtable Sports, that is exactly with where I'm going to be representing up at. So definitely come in, check it out, guys. We got to bolt it up into the chats because you know what? There are a bunch of Charger fans on that whole chat that haven't even met me yet. But we need to let them know. We need to spread the word because we are ready for it, man. We are ready. So let's show it off. Let's let them know we exist. We are ready for it. Bolt the fuck up and let's let's go. It's bolt up or shut up at this point. All right? So let's make it happen, guys. Love all you guys. You guys are the reason that this channel grows its success. And I appreciate every single one of you guys, and hope you guys continue to show off your supports, to share it out, like it out. Appreciate all of you guys. We need to get this channel monetized. We need to hit our goals, guys. We are so close to doing so, but let's make it happen and let's show them up here in week 1, guys. Appreciate all of you guys for joining Charger Syndicate. I'm out. Let's go. Screw the haters. Let's go. Chargers, bolt up or shut up. Let's go.